Hello crafty friends, welcome back. It's been a little while, lots of things have happened, but today I'm here to use products that were in the Uniquely Creative Mind Over Matter release. And I'm just showing you some of the gorgeous products I'm using today, including the paper collection, the ephemera pieces, the lovely vellum die cuts. Then I've also used these two papers that I'm showing you here that I've cut apart, as well as the stamp set, and they were or are a gorgeous range. So for card number one, I've cut up a 12 by 12 paper and I'm making a card front with one panel from that card, and I'm just going to add that piece of paper onto a craft card base. And I love the papers in this collection, and you can see that gorgeous image that we have there on the left of my card front. And now I'm attaching some of the cheesecloth that was available as well, and I've just teased out the fibres and I'm laying that down the right hand side of my card front. I've also cut the decorative strips that are on the edge of the 12 by 12 papers, and I'm using that to put this nice vertical stripe at the top and bottom, and that's going to help frame the focal images in the middle of my card. I'm going to glue on using enough glue that I can go through both the fabric and onto the paper, that lovely mushroom die cut. Then I've got a die cut flower, and I'm adding that just to the bottom of my mushrooms so that they don't look like they're floating in space. Then for my sentiment, I'm going to add this lovely little chipboard or die cut banner, and I've popped that up on foam tape, and I've had a little bit of the foam sticking out the edge there, so using your die pick is a really great way to get any little bits poking out back into place. Then I've got one of the little ladybug die cuts, and I've popped that up on foam tape as well. Now that the glue's had a little bit of time to set, I'm going to trim off my excess papers, as well as the little bits of fabric hanging over the edge there. Now I decided I'd come in with some glossy accents and go over my little ladybug, help make her stand up or stand out from the rest of the images. And then I've tied a little bow out of twine to match back with the card base. To give it some more sparkle, I've got my sparkle pen, and I'm just going to go over top of my mushrooms there. And that brush is nice and juicy and easy to use. And I'll also add a little bit of sparkle onto my flowers there. Help bring out the focal images there. And being very careful not to bump that glossy accents that I've put on the little ladybug. Now to finish off my card, I'm going to take some of the gemstones from our advent calendar kit, and I'm choosing a couple different sizes there, and I'm going to place them just underneath the ladybug, going across our striped border piece. And that's just going to add a little bit of shimmer and shine down there to catch your attention. And then to cover up the hole in the tag, I'm going to place one of the largest rhinestones over that. And then I thought I needed another one up there instead of just having one on the tag. And that is my first card finished. Card number two, I'm using a craft card base again. I just like the way the colours interact with the colours of the papers. And I've got another piece of the 12 by 12 pattern paper, and I've taken a front panel to go onto my card. I've then taken a smaller rectangular piece that I've cut from the cut apart sheet that has smaller rectangles as well as longer shapes that look like bookmarks. Now underneath that, I want to attach a strip of the striped paper for some accent, And then I'm also going to put a flower behind that panel. And to do that, I placed the flower where I thought I'd want it to be and then attached it to my actual panel rather than the card. And now to add more layers to the card front, I've cut out this little scalloped border strip from the cut apart sheet, and I'm just trying where it's going to sit, and then I'll glue it onto my front panel. And getting it nicely in position and making sure it's nicely attached and straight, I can then go ahead and attach my panel piece. And that panel piece is going to be popped up on foam tape. And just adding on the last one there. And I do like to add glue just so I've got that extra little bit of sticking power. Sometimes foam tapes can lose their stick over time. And to this panel, I'm going to add a flower that needs to be popped up on foam tape before I glue it to the bottom corner of my panel. And I'm just trying it out, making sure that I've got the foam tape in the right places, and then I can go ahead and attach my flower to that bottom corner. And that's going to be echoed in the top left corner of the panel as well. So we'll have a touch of orange in that corner as well as the bottom corner, looking to get some symmetry there. Then I want to bring in this circular tag that will have the sentiment on. So one side will need to be popped up on foam tape so that it can be level to the card. And I'm going to attach that just under the bottom of that top flower. And as a finishing touch, I'm going to add on a lovely twine bow, and I'm adding a generous amount of glue around that circle because that is going to be what holds our bow in place. I leave that to sit with a block on top for a little while, and once it's dry, I'm going to turn over and I trim off my excess paper. I've added a little bit of shine there with my glossy accents, and then I'm going to bring in a Nouveau Vintage Drop in Pioneer Green, and it matches beautifully to the greens in this paper collection. And I'm going to add a little bit more texture and dimension to the card and some embellishment. And I'm just placing 3 large drops towards the bottom right corner, and then I'll also add 3 drops to the top left corner. And one of my drops wasn't quite round enough, so I've used my die pick there and I've just rounded it off using the pointed end. I also gave my card a good tap to get those Nouveau drops nice and level. And finishing off there with sparkle pen. And that's my card all finished. Now card number 3 is a little longer for me to show how I made it because I'm keeping in the process I used to make my images. So I'm stamping onto watercolour cardstock my mushroom images there, and I'm going to stamp those out 4 separate times, and I am using VersaFine Clair Nocturnal ink to do this. Just letting the ink set there for a moment, and I decided I would pull out my gelatos, which I haven't used for a very long time, and I don't know why, they're lovely to use. And so I've gone through and from the gelatos that I have, and I've picked out some of the colours that I think will mix nicely together, nice warm hues, and then colours that will also match nicely with the different colour scheme and colours in the collection of papers and ephemera. So I have gone ahead and I've taken my gelatos and scribbled out on the packaging for the stamp set my different colours there, and I'm just using a water brush to go in and put down the first layer of watercolour. And as you can see, it's sped up quite a bit, but it was a very relaxing, fun sort of activity to do when you're crafting. and I've just gone in and I've given them all a coat with colour, and then I've allowed them to have time to let that first layer set, and then I'm coming back in with more of the colour. Now it might be same colour and I'm just layering it on to make a deeper tone, or I'm adding a darker shade to get some light variance on my mushrooms. So I'm mixing as I go on the plastic wrapper of the stamp set, and I do have to come in and I add a little bit more gelato to that packaging, just so I've got enough to go in and deepen the colour and add that shadowing onto the mushrooms. And I love to colour in mushrooms. The colouring in books I have, the mushroom pages are always the ones that I am drawn to first, and I love to colour those in. So when this image or set of stamps was included in this collection, I was very happy. So just about finished with my colouring there of the mushroom caps, and now I'm coming in with a more neutral colour and just doing a light wash of colour on the stems of the, or stalks of the mushrooms. And then to add a little bit more shadowing to those stems, I've brought in a more grey toned gelato, and I'm just adding some shadow basically where I think it would be. I'm not an expert colorist, but I'm just having fun and adding in the color where I think there would be some shadows. And just getting a bit more there to deepen the color. And gelatos are very forgiving when you work with them. They can layer on top of each other very nicely, as you see here. They blend together beautifully, and you can come back in and add more depth to your colours as you go, or mix them together on your paper to get a beautiful blend as well. So just going in and deepening up the shadows on my different stems, basically where I think the light might not be, and I've got shadow in those places. Now I've die cut all my mushrooms out, as well as several layers of plain white cardstock. I want to make my mushrooms quite dimensional, so I've gone ahead, and some of the mushrooms have 3 layers of cardstock in total, and others have 2 layers, just so you've got that variance for when I place it on my card. Now the mushrooms are all finished, I can go ahead and set up my card, which is going to be on a creamy white card base, and I've chosen a sheet of the paper that has the polka dots on the background, and that's going to be the main paper for my card. Then I've taken a scrap piece of the watercolour card that I was using, and I've embossed that with diagonal stripes. Then I've cut a strip of a red pearlized, or it's a pinky red pearlized paper, and I've layered on top of that some more of that scalloped border from a previous card. Then I'm going to layer the scalloped and the red backing onto that diagonal piece, and that's going to be the, I guess, sort of like a pot that my little mushrooms are going to be arranged in. And I have put my foam so it only goes around the very edges of the panel and completely open in the top side of the panel. That's so I can slide everything in nice and neat underneath it. So I've got a paper doily here, and I've just sliced off with my guillotine bottom part of it, and I'm going to place that doily in there. I just wanted to break up the polka dot pattern. It's quite powerful on and very strong hitting in your eyes, and I just wanted something to soften that for a background for my mushrooms. So I'm going to arrange my mushrooms underneath that little panel I've made there, and I start with my center image, which is the two red little mushrooms, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue and layer in my other mushrooms where they would be positioned. Now, most of these are going to sit nice and flat for me because they overlap onto other mushrooms and I don't need to worry about popping them up. But this little yellowy coloured mushroom here, it's going to need some support when I go and place in the last mushroom there. Now, to add my sentiment, I've taken another one of the tags that are included in the ephemera pack. I'm going to glue that to the top right hand side, not popping it up but leaving it flat against the background paper. I'm then using my fingers to give one of the little flowers some shape, and then I'm going to glue that over the end of the tag and just attach that there with some glue. I've also brought in one of the little butterflies from the ephemera, and that just helps give attention to the sentiment as well. I'm going to bring in a little bit of shine and dimension with the glossy accents, and I'm just going to fill in the white area of that sentiment strip or tag. And when I turn it around, I can see that I've missed a bit, so I'm going to go in, finish that, and add a little bit to the body of my butterfly. Card number 4 I think is a really elegant card, and I'm coming in with a white card base, and I've got my washi tape from Uniquely Creative. I'm adding 2 strips down the side. I've then taken a piece of white cardstock and I've embossed it with a Pink and Main floral embossing folder, and I think the flowers on it are very reminiscent of the flowers in the collection. Now, to decorate this main panel, I've chosen to use some of the gorgeous vellum creative cuts, and I'm placing them sort of as a frame around my sentiment, and I'm placing glue just on the inner edges of my images where I know that they're going to be overlapped by the circle sentiment and not showing. I also want to have my greenery or the leaves of my flowers so that they're sort of interlaced and layered in there. I'm then going to add some more of the shrubbery or greenery from the vellum die cuts, and I've chosen the long leafy branches so it'll hang from the bottom of the floral centerpiece, and then I'm also going to interlace another of the same images in the top corner as well, and then adding in some of the smaller individual leaves just to fill out some of the what I feel like were open areas of the almost wreath, and then once I'm happy with everything's position, I'm going to add my little sentiment, which is popped up on foam squares and with glue, just so that I know that I've got good adhesion to the vellum. I'm then going to bring in one of our crystals and cover the circle of the tag, or the hole in the tag, and then I'm going to bring in some more of the crystals and just add them in an arrangement to the bottom left as well as the bottom right, and I'm using different sized crystals just to give that little bit of extra interest. And popping the last crystals on now, and my card will need just one more finishing touch after this. So I decided I wanted to finish the edges of the white panel, and I've brought in some Love from Lizzie Silver Moon Dust peel-offs, and I've added those to both edges, and that card's finished. card number 5, I'm using another panel from the one piece of cardstock that I've used for my previous cards, and I'm going to glue that onto my creamy white card base. And placing that there, and you can see there's lovely texture on this sheet of cardstock. And I'm just attaching that there, and I've trimmed off that little white excess that I had at the top as well. Then I'm taking the bottom part of the paper doily I used in the previous card, and I'm going to attach that to the top of my card. And that's one little layer for my card. And then I've cut myself a long fishtail banner, and I'm going to place that over top of the lace doily. And it's a lovely gold glitter cardstock, just adds that little bit of sparkle to the card. I've then cut one of the rectangular pieces from the sheet of cardstock and turned that into a tag. I plan to layer the tag over the gold glitter banner and then have this lovely vellum leaf tucked underneath the tag, but also the leaves popping up over that one right hand side edge. And I do use a liquid adhesive to attach the tag to the glitter cardstock, and then I'm going to come in and just add tiniest little dabs of glue on the tips of those leaves, and you won't see the glue through the patterned vellum, and that'll attach it nicely to the card. I'm then going to add in a lovely little flower that I've cut out from the fussy cutting sheet, as well as all these teeny tiny little flowers as well. And I'm just going to scatter them kind of like confetti onto my card, and they're going to be raining down lots of flowery goodness down my card towards the sentiment at the bottom. And the sentiment you can see I've chosen is happy birthday, and I have stacked that up onto layers of white cardstock, so it's got dimension and will stand out from the other elements of the card. And you can see I've just scattered the flowers, not in any particular order. I did try to make sure I didn't cover up too much of the vellum leaves, and I did try to make sure I had the 3 orange flowers sort of separated and scattered around the card front, so they weren't all grouped together in one sort of location. So I'm adding my liquid glue to my happy, and once that's done, I will place that in position onto my card base there. And then I'll take the birthday part, and because I have put them onto layers of white cardstock, they're really quite easy to manage. They're not flimsy anymore, so you do have the ability to maneuver them without them tearing. So I've got my birthday in place there, just making sure I've got it nice and straight and even. And then I'm going to cut off the little overhanging part of the flower at the top. To add some more sparkle to the card, I'm bringing in the crystals, and I'm just placing them randomly around the card and onto that tag as well. Then trying to decide, yes, I think I do want another crystal there to fill in the gap. And I'm bringing in the clear sparkle pen again, and I'm just going to run that over the raised flower on the tag, and then all the little flowers that I've scattered over the card. Just making sure I get those last couple and haven't missed any, and I'm done. So that is my 5th card. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'm going to leave you with one last look at all the cards I've made today with this gorgeous Mind Over Matter collection from Uniquely Creative. Thank you for joining me. I know it's been a little while since I've put up a video, but I do appreciate your patience, and thank you again for joining me, and I hope your New Year's had a brilliant start. Until later or next time, see you then. Bye bye for now.